Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, and listen close. There's a certain kind of woman out here. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. She doesn't cry for attention. You see her walking alone? Don't confuse her silence with sadness. Don't mistake her peace for weakness. She ain't lonely, she's aligned. She ain't desperate, she's discerning. This woman, she found something deeper than a relationship. She found herself. And when a woman finds that, you can't buy her time with good looks. You can't fool her with sweet talk. You can't keep her with promises you don't intend to keep. Because she knows she doesn't need a boyfriend to feel love. She's already standing on love, her own love. A woman who finds her strength and peace from within doesn't need temporary people to fill emotional gaps. She's not seeking validation from the outside because she already knows who she is. Her worth isn't up for debate. It's not measured by attention, compliments, or how many people chase her. It's rooted in something deeper, something built in silence, in solitude, in nights where she sat with her own pain and came out stronger on the other side. When a woman has done the inner work, the real work, she doesn't settle for company that doesn't match her energy. She doesn't chase love because she is love. She's not looking for someone to come in and fix her because she already picked up her own broken pieces and turned them into power. That kind of strength, it's unshakable, and it makes her different. People can feel it when she walks in the room. That calm, quiet confidence that says, "I'm good with me." That kind of woman doesn't fall for sweet talk and empty promises. She sees through games. She's not impressed by potential. She wants presence. She doesn't get attached to people who don't show up with consistency because she learned the hard way that presence without intention is just another form of pain waiting to happen. And she's done entertaining that kind of pain. She's moved on from it. She's not bitter. She's better. And better means selective. Better means she waits until she sees something that aligns with her soul. You ever meet someone who seems like they don't need anybody? Not because they're cold, not because they're angry, but because they've mastered the art of fulfillment. That's her. She found fulfillment not in things, not in people, not in attention, but in growth, purpose, peace, and truth. And once you find that, you stop asking people to make you feel whole. You stop asking people to fill a void that no one else can truly understand. Because deep down, she realized no one can love her better than the way she learned to love herself. It took time to get there. It wasn't easy. There were seasons of doubt, heartbreak, and loneliness. But instead of running from the pain, she sat with it. She faced it. And she healed, not with distractions, but with discipline. Not with rebounds, but with reflection. That's why today, she doesn't crave a title. She craves peace. She doesn't need someone to entertain her. She needs someone to match her mindset, match her character, match her maturity. She became whole. And wholeness isn't needy. It's not clingy. It's not desperate. Wholeness knows how to say no to anything that disrupts peace. Wholeness walks away when energy feels off. Wholeness doesn't lower standards to accommodate company. It raises the standard and waits for someone who can meet it. That's what makes her different. That's why she's powerful. She doesn't need to be pursued to feel special. She already knows she is. And the world doesn't know what to do with women like that because society teaches women to wait, to hope, to be chosen. But she chose herself. She stopped begging to be seen. She stopped shrinking herself to fit into someone else's idea of love. She realized love shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't confuse. Love shouldn't feel like a battle you keep losing. So she laid down her armor, picked up her crown, and decided to walk, not chase. You might see her at a coffee shop, alone, with a book, eyes calm, spirit quiet, and you might think she's lonely, but she's not. That's her sanctuary. That's her space. She doesn't need noise to feel alive. She doesn't need attention to feel valued. She doesn't need a man to feel complete, because what she has is something far more valuable: peace. She doesn't hate love, she believes in it, she honors it, but she refuses to settle for the watered-down version of it. She refuses to accept less than what she gives, because what she brings to the table isn't common. Her loyalty isn't conditional. Her support is solid. Her love is deep. She's not the type you meet and forget. She's the type that lingers in your spirit long after she's gone. That's why she protects her energy so fiercely. That's why she doesn't let just anyone close. She understands that time is precious, energy is sacred, and she won't give hers to someone who only sees her as a convenience. She walked through fire to become this version of herself, and that fire taught her this: peace is more valuable than attention. Growth is more important than companionship, and purpose always outweighs popularity. She doesn't need a boyfriend, not because she's bitter, not because she's given up on love, but because she learned to fall in love with her own journey. She wakes up every day choosing herself, loving herself, believing in herself. And if someone wants to walk beside her, they'll have to come correct. They'll have to bring truth, consistency, presence, and respect. Anything less, she'll walk away from it without blinking. She's not afraid to be alone. She's afraid of losing herself in the wrong hands. And that fear keeps her grounded, keeps her selective, keeps her strong, because she knows what it took to become who she is now, and she refuses to go backward. So when you see a woman walking alone with her head held high, don't assume she's missing something. She's not missing love. She is love. She's not waiting for someone to complete her. She's already whole. And that right there is why she needs no boyfriend. Walking alone doesn't mean you're lost. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean nobody wants you or that you've given up. In fact, the most powerful women you'll ever meet are the ones who chose to walk alone, not because they had no options, but because they refused to settle. There's a quiet strength in a woman who walks alone. She's not looking over her shoulder. She's not chasing validation. She's not trying to fit into someone else's timeline. She's not waiting to be chosen. She is the choice. And that's why she moves with certainty. Aloneness and loneliness are two very different things. Loneliness is when you feel empty and crave someone to fill the void. But aloneness, that's intentional. That's sacred. That's when you choose your solitude because your peace has become non-negotiable. And when a woman chooses her peace, her path, her power, there's nothing more unstoppable. People will say she's too isolated. She needs someone in her life. But what they don't understand is that her life is already full of purpose, full of clarity, full of truth. She doesn't need someone to complete her because she already did the work. She filled the empty spaces with growth, with discipline, with faith in her own strength. She's not avoiding love, she's avoiding chaos. She's not running from people, she's running toward her purpose. That's the difference. You see, society tries to shame a woman for being alone. They think if you're not in a relationship, you must be unhappy. But some women are single not because they're hard to love, but because they have standards. They don't want to teach a grown person how to communicate. They don't want to shrink themselves to fit into a small heart. They're not interested in begging for attention or tolerating disrespect just to say they have someone. That's not strength, that's survival. And she's past surviving, she's focused on thriving. She's done with the half-loves and the maybes. She's not wasting her time trying to convince someone to see her worth. If someone has to be persuaded to stay, they were never meant to stay in the first place. That's why she chooses to walk alone, because she would rather walk with purpose in silence than lose herself in noise. And let me tell you something, there is a peace that only comes when you walk your path alone. It's a deep, spiritual kind of peace. You don't have to explain your journey to anyone. You don't have to compromise your values. You don't have to chase what doesn't align with your soul. You simply move quietly and confidently, knowing that what's meant for you will never need to be forced. That kind of woman makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because she's not begging. She's not desperate. She's not playing the game. She's not entertaining just anyone who shows interest. She's discerning. She listens more than she speaks. She watches more than she reacts. And when she moves with purpose. She knows that love, true love, will meet her on her path, not pull her off of it. She walks alone because she knows her direction. She's not following trends, not mimicking others. Her path is hers alone. And on that path, she's been through enough to know what she will and will not tolerate. She knows that sometimes solitude is the price you pay for healing. Sometimes walking alone is the only way to hear your own voice. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is space. Space to grow, space to learn, space to breathe. Does she get lonely? Sure, everyone does from time to time, but she doesn't live in loneliness. She chooses her solitude. And there's a difference between temporary loneliness and permanent peace. She knows that temporary discomfort is better than long-term misery. She knows that walking alone for a season is far better than walking forever with someone who can't carry the weight of her soul. People look at her and ask, "Don't you want someone?" And she says, "Yes, I do, but not just anyone." She's not looking for attention. She's looking for alignment, not just love, but peace, respect, and depth. And until she finds that, she's fine walking her path alone, because she's learned that being alone with peace is better than being together and in pieces. So don't pity the woman walking alone. Don't ask her when she's going to settle down. Don't assume she's incomplete, because the truth is she's more complete than she's ever been. She's walking alone not because she's weak, but because she's wise. And if someone wants to walk beside her, they better come correct. They better bring real energy, real love, real consistency. Because she's no longer available for halfway, almost, or someday. She's only available for real effort, real presence, real partnership. And if that doesn't show up, she'll keep walking alone, with grace, with focus, with power. Because a woman who walks alone is not empty. She is full of purpose, full of self-respect, full of vision. And that's a kind of fullness no one can take away. A woman who walks in alignment with her inner strength does not fear being misunderstood. She has learned that people often judge what they don't understand, especially when it comes to a woman who refuses to follow the traditional script. She's not desperate for attention, not moved by what's trending, and she doesn't care to explain why she's not chasing a relationship. She's walking her own journey, and the truth is, not everyone is supposed to understand that journey. Not everyone is qualified to. When a woman decides to choose her peace over popularity, her solitude over shallow company, her growth over comfort, people get uncomfortable. They project their own fears onto her. They'll call her too picky, too hard to love, too independent. But what they're really saying is this: she can't be controlled. She can't be manipulated. She doesn't need me to feel whole. And that shakes people. It challenges their ego, because a woman who doesn't need them makes them feel small. Not because she intends to, but because she's standing tall in who she is. She's not trying to prove anything to anyone anymore. She used to once. She used to explain her heart, justify her standards, shrink her light to keep people comfortable. But those days are over. She's no longer trying to fit into small spaces that were never meant to hold her. She's not bending anymore to make people stay. If they can't handle her truth, they were never meant to walk her path. It's not easy to walk this way. to be misunderstood, to be misjudged, to be labeled because you refuse to settle. It's not easy to sit at the table alone while everyone else is rushing into connections just to avoid being alone. It takes courage. It takes clarity. It takes a kind of emotional maturity that most people never develop. That's why she stands out. That's why people talk about her, because deep down, they wish they had her strength. They wish they had the ability to walk away from what doesn't serve them like she does. She doesn't need to be seen to know her value. She doesn't need applause to know she's on the right path. Her validation isn't external, it's internal. It's in the way she sleeps peacefully at night. It's in the way she looks in the mirror and respects who she sees. It's in the way she keeps choosing herself, even when no one else does. That kind of validation, that's unshakable. There's a reason she doesn't explain herself anymore, because people will hear what they want to hear. You can pour your heart out and still be misunderstood. So now, she lets her actions speak. Her peace speaks. Her progress speaks. Her energy speaks. If they can't hear that, they're not listening with the right ears. And here's what makes her different. She doesn't need to be surrounded to feel secure. She doesn't need to post every moment of her life to feel important. She doesn't need everyone's opinion before making a decision. She's tuned into her own intuition. She trusts her own voice. And because of that, she walks differently. She walks with direction, not distraction. And when people try to define her based on their limited perspective, she doesn't get defensive, just smiles and keeps walking because she knows something they don't, that the path she's walking wasn't given to them, it was given to her. Some people are only comfortable when you fit their version of you. The moment you outgrow it, the moment you start walking with power instead of permission, they panic. They call you distant, cold, or arrogant. But she's not any of those things. She's just done explaining why she refuses to lower her standards. She's done apologizing for wanting more peace, more purpose, more authenticity. She's not being difficult, she's being deliberate. She knows that silence is sometimes more powerful than explanation, that distance is sometimes more healing than connection, that not everyone needs access to her life, her heart, or her journey. That's wisdom. That's protection. That's choosing herself fully and unapologetically. When she walks alone, she's not lost, she's not broken, she's not bitter. She's just focused. Focused on her healing, focused on her growth, focused on becoming the woman she was always meant to be, not the one the world told her to be. She understands that her life doesn't need to be understood by anyone else to be valid. Her story doesn't require approval. Her decisions don't need a round of applause. She's not here to please the crowd. She's here to fulfill her purpose. And that purpose, it often requires silence, solitude, and being misunderstood. But she's okay with that because she knows that anything truly worth building starts quietly. When they question her path, when they doubt her strength, when they whisper behind her back, she keeps walking. When they say she's too much, she smiles, knowing they're not enough for the woman she's becoming. When they try to guilt her for choosing herself, she remembers how many nights she cried alone, picked herself up, and kept going. Nobody saw that, but she did. And that's enough. Let them misunderstand her. Let them misjudge her. Let them watch her from a distance and wonder why she's not begging to be loved. She doesn't need to be understood to be at peace. She doesn't need to be validated to be valuable. She just needs to keep walking in truth, in purpose, in power, alone if necessary, but always with strength. She doesn't crave attention because she already knows who she is. Her worth isn't tied to how many compliments she gets or how many messages fill her phone. She's not looking for validation from the world because the world didn't give her the value she carries. That came from within. Through pain, through silence, through nights she cried herself to sleep and still woke up stronger. That's why she doesn't beg to be noticed. She already sees herself. There's something powerful about a woman who doesn't need a man to tell her she's beautiful to feel beautiful. Something magnetic about a woman who can walk into a room and not try to prove anything to anyone. That's a woman who understands her power. That's a woman who has sat with her insecurities, stared them down, and decided they don't define her anymore. She's grown past the need to be chosen. She chooses herself every day, every hour, every moment. She refuses to settle for less than she deserves. The world is noisy. Everyone's trying to be seen, to be heard, to be validated. But she's learned that the most powerful presence doesn't come from shouting, posting, or proving. It comes from quiet confidence, from knowing who you are when no one's watching, from doing the work when there's no applause, from standing tall even when no one stands beside you. She's not playing games, not chasing empty promises or entertaining what doesn't serve her. She used to wait on calls that never came. She used to smile through red flags, thinking she could fix broken people with her love. But now, she knows better. She knows that her love is sacred. Her time is valuable. Her peace is non-negotiable. That's why she doesn't hand it out carelessly anymore. She's not bitter, she's better. Better because she's learned. Better because she's healed. Better because she finally realized she doesn't have to be needed to feel worthy. She doesn't have to be in a relationship to be complete. Love isn't something she chases anymore, it's something she is. And when you are love, when you carry it within you, you don't run around begging for it. You walk in it, you live in it, you become it. She's seen the difference between being wanted and being valued. She's been in rooms where people smiled at her face and doubted her behind her back. She's given her heart to people who didn't know how to hold it. But instead of breaking her, it built her. Because now, she doesn't chase chemistry, she watches for character. She doesn't ask, do they like me? She asks, do they respect me when I'm not in the room? She's done playing small just to be liked. She's only making space for people who recognize her worth before she has to explain it. She's not looking for someone to complete her because she is already whole. That's what makes her intimidating to some and inspiring to others. You can't control a woman who knows her worth. You can't manipulate someone who's at peace with being alone. She doesn't fear loneliness because she's met herself in solitude. And she likes who she found. And that's the thing most people don't understand. They think she's cold, guarded, maybe even too independent. But what they don't realize is that her strength was built from everything she survived, every betrayal, every letdown, every time she showed up for someone who couldn't do the same. She didn't get this strong by accident. She earned it. She bled for it. She healed for it. And she's not going to throw it away just to feel temporary affection. She's not putting her crown down to hold hands with inconsistency. She's not lowering her standards for a smile and some sweet words. She's not playing the pick-me game because she's already chosen herself. And that choice, that's everything. That's freedom. That's peace. That's power. She's not hiding from love. She's just not forcing it. She's not building her life around being desired. She's building it around purpose, around growth, around truth. And if love finds her on that path, real love, respectful love, love that uplifts, not depletes, she'll welcome it. But she's not waiting around for it. She's already living. She's already glowing. When she walks into a room, people feel her presence, not because she's loud, but because she's sure. She's not trying to be liked. She's not trying to impress. She's just being real. And that's rare. That's what makes her unforgettable, because people may not always understand her, but they'll never forget how she made them feel like they were in the presence of someone who knows who they are. She's not against love. She's not against relationships. She's just for herself first. And until someone matches the peace she's built, the energy she brings, the love she carries, she's okay walking alone. Not lonely, not waiting. Just whole, just focused, just free. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't settle, she aligns. And she doesn't explain her standards. She lives by them. That's why she doesn't need attention. Her soul's already full. You can't break a woman who's already been through the fire and came out gold. She's been disappointed by the ones she trusted, ignored by the ones she loved, underestimated by the ones who smiled in her face. But here's the part no one saw. She didn't let it destroy her. She used the pain as fuel. She used the silence as training. While others thought she was being quiet, she was rebuilding, redefining. And now she walks like someone who's already faced her worst fears and refused to stay broken. This is not just a woman who survived. This is a woman who transformed, who took the pieces of her broken heart and built herself into someone unstoppable. You don't get that kind of strength from comfort. You don't become that kind of woman by being liked, pampered, or praised. No, you earn it in the dark, in the loneliness, in the moments when giving up seemed easier, but she chose to rise instead. That kind of woman, she doesn't just have resilience, she is resilience. She used to think love had to hurt, that maybe being needed was the same as being valued, but time and pain became her teachers. She learned that real love isn't confusion. Real love isn't constant apologies for the same behavior. Real love isn't about fixing broken people at the cost of breaking yourself. She's not bitter. She's just done accepting the bare minimum. She's done playing the role of a healer for people who never intended to grow. Her healing is now reserved for her. They tried to break her spirit with lies, with betrayal, with emotional games. But instead of folding, she found fire. Instead of begging, she built boundaries. Every time they thought they had her figured out, she rewrote the rules. She stopped answering to expectations. She stopped proving herself to people who only saw her as a convenience. She finally realized that the most dangerous version of her is the one who no longer seeks permission to live freely. Now, when you see her walking alone, understand this. She's not lonely, she's in alignment. Alignment with her values, with her standards, with her peace. That's why she doesn't respond to every text. That's why she's not in every room. That's why she seems different. Because she is. She's outgrown chaos. She no longer entertains energy that drains her. If it doesn't bring clarity, growth, or peace, it no longer has access to her. They say she's too much now, too focused, too serious, too protective of her energy. But the truth is, she's just no longer willing to shrink for people who can't handle her depth. She's not difficult. She's just done being simple for people who never intended to value her in the first place. If you want her, you've got to come correct. No masks, no games, no inconsistency, because she's no longer a safe space for people who love half-heartedly. She knows her triggers now. She knows her patterns. She knows what wounds she used to ignore just to keep someone close. But not anymore. She faces her reflection with honesty. She doesn't run from her flaws. She studies them. That's why she grows. That's why she evolves. And that's why you can't shake her the way you used to. She's rooted now in her purpose, in her vision, in her truth. The people who once had the power to destroy her can't even reach her anymore. Not because she's hiding, but because she's elevated. Her peace is too expensive now. Her energy too rare. She's no longer accessible to just anyone. You don't get to speak to her with disrespect and still expect her loyalty. You don't get to break her and then act confused when she doesn't come back. She's not operating from pain anymore, but she's operating from power. Her power isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't scream for validation. It shows up in her discipline, in the way she says no without guilt, in the way she chooses silence over chaos, in the way she keeps moving forward even if no one claps for her. She doesn't need an audience to feel strong. She's already proven everything to the only person who matters, herself. She used to feel like she needed a relationship to feel stable. That if she didn't have someone, maybe she was missing something. But now she knows the relationship she needed most was with herself. And once she rebuilt that, everything changed. She no longer settles for love that makes her question her worth. She no longer ignores red flags just to feel wanted. She no longer breaks herself into pieces to keep someone else whole. When she walks now, she walks with the kind of peace that turns heads, not because she's trying to be seen, but because she's finally seen herself. And once you see yourself clearly, once you've met the version of you that refuses to quit, you stop tolerating confusion disguised as connection. You stop allowing access to people who never respected your heart in the first place. This woman is not bitter, she is reborn. She's not cold, she's calculated. Every step she takes now is intentional. Every move she makes is aligned with her growth. And if she walks alone, it's not because she couldn't find someone, it's because she refuses to lose herself for someone. That's the power of a woman who has faced heartbreak and chose healing. That's the power of a woman who walks alone, not because she has to, but because she can't. She doesn't need anyone to validate her anymore. She used to, though. She used to crave someone's text to feel seen, someone's praise to feel worthy, someone's touch to feel loved. But she grew. She got tired of needing approval from people who barely understood her. Tired of explaining her value to people who were too blind or too distracted to see it for themselves. One day she just stopped waiting to be chosen, waiting to be appreciated, waiting for love to come from outside. She turned inward and realized everything she was looking for was already inside her. She doesn't seek validation because she's found something greater, peace. And peace doesn't come from people. It comes from clarity, from boundaries, from honoring your own voice, even when the world tries to talk over it. She no longer needs to prove her worth. Not to a man, not to friends, not to society. She knows who she is, and that alone is her superpower. She's walked through the storm, not with the crowd around her, but with her own 2 feet and a quiet fire burning inside her. She didn't survive to go back to begging for crumbs. She's learned to clap for herself, to comfort herself, to show up for herself when no one else did. There were nights she cried and no one noticed. Days she smiled while breaking inside. And through it all, she realized if she could get through that, she could get through anything. She doesn't look for reassurance in other people because she knows people change, their moods shift, their attention wanders, and when your self-worth depends on something that fragile, you're always chasing. But she stopped chasing, she started choosing herself, choosing her peace, choosing the kind of life where love feels like a gift, not a rescue mission. Now she walks into a room and doesn't scan for who's watching her. She doesn't dress to impress, speak to be liked, or shrink to be accepted. She's not worried about fitting in because she's learned how to stand out without even trying. Her silence is confidence, her distance is discipline, and her lack of urgency to belong comes from a place of deep self-trust. When you no longer need approval, your energy becomes untouchable. It's not that she doesn't want love, it's that she no longer needs love to complete her. That's the difference. A woman who needs love to feel whole will tolerate mistreatment just to keep the fantasy alive. But a woman who is already whole, she'll walk away the moment she feels her peace being threatened. That's what makes her rare. That's what makes her dangerous. Because you can't manipulate a woman who knows how to be alone. You can't scare her with silence or punish her with distance or control her with attention. She's moved past those games. She's not impressed by potential. She wants peace. She wants effort. She wants consistency. And if it's not that, she's gone. There's a kind of calm in her now, the kind that can't be faked. She's no longer racing to prove her worth, to find her other half, to convince someone she's enough. She is enough, and she knows it. That's why she's so careful now. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone gets to hear her story. Not everyone gets to touch her energy, because she spent too many years giving pieces of herself to people who didn't value the gift. Now she guards her space like a sacred place, because that's exactly what it is. She no longer lets loneliness trick her into settling. She's made peace with being by herself. And in that space of solitude, she's grown roots. She's created joy without needing an audience. She's found healing without needing someone to fix her. And the kind of joy that comes from within, that joy is unshakable. That's why no one can distract her anymore with sweet words or surface-level charm. She's listening with her spirit now, not just her heart. And her spirit knows what feels like peace and what feels like pressure. Don't mistake her independence for arrogance. Don't confuse her solitude for sadness. She's not bitter, she's just better. Better at recognizing red flags. Better at protecting her energy. Better at knowing what she deserves. And if that means walking alone for a season, so be it. Because she knows what she's building. She knows what she's becoming, and she refuses to interrupt her growth for someone who doesn't value her strength. There was a time she begged for love. Now, love has to earn her. She's not interested in half love anymore. She's not here to raise grown people or fix broken souls who refuse to heal themselves. She's learned to save herself. And that lesson changed everything. The days of giving without receiving, loving without being loved back, and chasing people who ran from her love, those days are over. And maybe people don't understand her now. Maybe they say she's too independent or too focused or too cold. But what they're really seeing is a woman who refuses to settle. A woman who knows her value. A woman who has finally stopped looking outward for something that was inside her all along. That's what happens when you stop needing validation. You stop being controlled by the fear of not being liked. You start living with intention, and you stop allowing people to write your story for you. So she walks alone, proud, peaceful, powerful, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. Because she knows now she doesn't need the world to clap for her, doesn't need a man to confirm her beauty, doesn't need attention to know she matters. She knows she is, and that's all the validation she'll ever need. There is a different kind of woman rising now, the one who is no longer afraid of solitude, no longer afraid of silence. The woman who used to associate her worth with being wanted, with being chosen, with being desired, she's gone. She evolved. She didn't just wake up one day and decide she didn't need anyone. No, it came through pain, through nights spent in confusion, wondering why love always felt like a burden instead of a blessing. It came through betrayal, through being used, through being overlooked. She's been broken. She's been dismissed, but she didn't stay down. She rebuilt herself with her own hands, and what she built can't be shaken by flattery or torn down by loneliness. This woman no longer needs someone to complete her. She understands now that she was never half of anything. She was always whole. The world tried to convince her otherwise, tried to sell her the story that a woman isn't fulfilled until someone calls her theirs. But she flipped the script. She stopped searching for a savior and became one for herself. And in that transformation, she found her power. A quiet, steady power that doesn't need attention to shine. She doesn't walk around demanding respect, she commands it. By the way she carries herself, the way she holds her peace in chaos, the way she refuses to chase what isn't for her. She walks alone, not because she believes no one is worthy of her, but because she knows her worth too well to gamble it on the unworthy. It took years to get here. Years of emotional warfare, of learning the hard way that not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions, that love isn't proven through promises, but through actions, That patience is not about waiting for someone to change, but about understanding when it's time to walk away. She's walked away from comfort, from mediocrity, from relationships that drained her instead of poured into her. And now she walks lighter, freer, with nothing to prove and everything to protect. She has built her life from the inside out. Her joy is no longer tied to anyone's presence. Her peace isn't dependent on someone texting back. She laughs on her own. She travels on her own. She celebrates her wins even if no one else sees them. Because she knows what it took to get here. She knows the battles she fought, the ones behind closed doors, the tears cried into pillows, the mornings where getting out of bed was an act of courage. So don't mistake her independence for pride. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's years of choosing herself after being chosen last. It's not that she's given up on love, it's that she no longer sacrifices herself for it. She refuses to lose her identity just to be claimed. If someone wants to love her now, they have to come correct. They have to be real, consistent, present. Otherwise, she won't even look twice because she doesn't need potential. She needs peace. She's not impressed by words. She watches for behavior. And when that behavior doesn't align with her standards, she'll choose her solitude over chaos every single time. You can't lure her with promises anymore. She's seen enough broken ones to know the difference between sweet talk and true intention. She's not naive. She's not desperate. She's aware of who she is, what she brings, and what she deserves. And because of that awareness, she no longer tolerates half love, conditional attention, or relationships built on convenience instead of commitment. This kind of woman doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She doesn't cling. She attracts through her energy, through her silence, through her peace. And it intimidates people who are used to control, used to manipulation, used to women bending themselves just to be kept. But she won't bend anymore. She's done shrinking, done over-explaining, done auditioning for roles she doesn't even want. She spends her energy building her purpose, her health, her future. She's writing new chapters that don't include waiting on someone to love her the way she deserves. If love comes, it will be an addition, not a foundation, because she is her own foundation now, strong, grounded, rooted in truth. And that's why she's no longer easy to access. She's learned that love without respect is dangerous, that desire without care is hollow, that presence without effort is noise. So she doesn't make space for anything that disrupts her peace. She knows what it feels like to be emptied by someone who claimed to love her. She knows what it feels like to be alone while in a relationship. So if she walks alone now, it's not because she's hard to love. It's because she refuses to be loved poorly. She refuses to trade temporary affection for long-term confusion. She'd rather be by herself in peace than entangled with someone who can't meet her halfway. This woman is powerful, not loud, not boastful, but deeply rooted in herself. And that kind of strength scares people, especially those who only know how to love broken things. But she's not broken anymore. She's whole. She's healed. She's high value, and she knows it. So if she walks alone, don't feel sorry for her. Don't project loneliness onto her solitude. She's not missing out. She's moving up. She's living a life that honors her spirit, her mind, and her soul. And when love does arrive, if it does, it will find her already full, already glowing, already loved by the one who matters most, herself. So if you see a woman walking alone, don't pity her, respect her. She's not waiting to be chosen. She already chose herself. She's not sitting around hoping to be loved. She became the love she was looking for. She doesn't need a boyfriend. because she walks with something bigger